What made you join as an apprentice? Was it something the schools were promoting, or?
I've always been in aircraft. I've always been interested in aircraft, and living where I did, every morning, just after 10, a yellow mosquito with a big P on the side overtook my house. Every morning, as regular clockwork, Geoffrey de Havilland flew over that way because he wanted to get away from the coast probably, and he was going his trials over there.
And was this all over yellow?
Yeah, all over yellow.
So what year would that have been?
Well, that would be before I came here. It would be if I was here at 43, and that flew about 42 or something.
1940. November 40 was the first flight.
Yeah, and I think it took off from here. Did they have to road it to Hatfield?
No, the first one was dismantled and taken to Hatfield. The second one, the story goes that de Havilland was so frustrated with the amount of time he had to wait that he took 2 and 3 off from the field.
That's right. That's when I arrived. Yeah, that part of it, and then it was purely I used to have my lessons here, and that for a year. Metallurgy and God knows what, you know.
So when you joined de Havilland, were you based at the main factory first, or were you sent here?
No, I came here.
So so the mosquito side was a side of the training school.
I think the mosquito side, probably we was in one of the hangars because there wasn't any mosquitoes there. The only thing I can remember is that there used to be a heap of cowlings or one thing or another, which was the Red Comet, which has now been assembled and flies at Shuttleworth. You kind of used to have to make these, shape it all so it fitted the thing to pull it. Yes. Those apprentice jobs, you know. I remember polishing the spar, the wing spar, I think, of the Comet for the radio test and all that, for the cracks and stuff.
Yes.
And also, I used to, when we were working on metal and one thing or another, often overnight you had to put it in the fridge. I'd never met it before, to do with tension and stress, you know.
Yeah.
When I was here that year, I remember walking down the drive and everybody said Peter de Havilland and had a crash above us that afternoon. He was killed. And I did go to Geoffrey de Havilland's memorial service at the Abbey. But as I say, I just worked there. I did see various marvellous air displays where I shouldn't have done, i.e. if I was in the fitting shop. I think every so often they used to have a new aircraft display in front of people. There was a rumour that Churchill and Smuts was watching one. That's when, and I saw the first British jet and the first American jet, and I think the initial first Meteor, I'm not sure, there's another one flying. But I was in the fitting shop then, which to literally being an apprentice, you're deburring, if you know what I mean. Well, it's always puzzled me. Well, to be quite honest with you, I failed one of my S3 exams. I always think that's what put the kind of...
S3 was one of the...
They were high national.
Right, okay, yes.
I got my S2 and I failed that S3, and I don't think that went down very well. So I never got to wear a black... Do you know the black blazer with the gold wings?
No.
That's what de Havilland... Two of my friends, and they were they then were called students. And I worked through the shops. I remember all the excitement of the Swallow and de Havilland flying up now. I mean, I've seen some marvellous flying displays of Geoffrey de Havilland. I was in the experimental. I remember that. I remember naturally working on the Comet. I think the last job I did manually was help put build the wing jigs or start the wing jigs for the Hornet That's right.
Mosquito was
Yeah. The Vixen, I had part to do with that on hardly, because I almost left. That was in the drawing office.
So
The Sea Vixen, the big one.
were you there during the Comet problems?
Oh yeah, but I never saw the first flight because it was flown on a Friday night.
You weren't there. But what was the atmosphere like there with the? You know,
Oh, I was very excited because it was the first jet.
Mm.
And of course, working in the, they always walk through the main corridor, through the experimental. There was a kind of a lane you walk through. And of course, there was Edinburgh and everybody else, and all these various people. But of course, I was working away. That's the only memories I have, and I just happened. That was my apprenticeship.
The stress problems and the
Yes.
grounding of the Comet. Were you there at that time?
Oh yes. In
So that
fact,
must have caused quite a.
there was several things on test there, but I think the main one about the Comet and the pressurisation went to Farnborough, I believe, and they filled it with water and all that. Although there was some goings on here
Yes.
as well, I remember. But I was in the drawing office then, I think. And when I came back from the Air Force, I had a year to do, and I went into the drawing office, but I went on the drawing course under Mann at Ashwick Manor. I never had any flying here at all. I think after I left, they did take a few people up. I had a friend who was took up in a mosquito here.
Were you aware the significance of what was going on around you here, the mosquito, the secrecy? I mean, was there any special measures that they made for, because obviously it was such a secret site and such a secret project?
Well, I mean, for a start, I was very aware of the 98 shop, the mosquito shop, because that was bombed by a student from here. So several people were killed. I enjoyed that. That part of the mosquito part I did there was C-38. The C-38 operation was the laying of all the pipe controls all down each side, because as you know it's in a half.
Yeah.
It's in a half, and cleating up all the down to the tail wheel.
So I mean, from a manufacturing point of view, that was a godsend, wasn't it? Because you could conduit and wire it up really easily.
Yeah, straightforward. It's all told you. Case of all the holes are in the body.
Already done.
Yeah, but then of course in the experiment it was slightly harder. But you know, we got by its crust. But then I realised it's you know, to keep travelling, like it's a long old way. I didn't realise it was as long as it.
From Luton.
Because when I had to go from home to the station, to St Albans, to Hatfield, that way.
Yes.
And often then you got friendly with people who'd give you a lift, who had, of course, I'm only a lad. And if the bus was late getting to a certain part of Luton, all you saw was two rear lights. You had to turn around and run like hell to the station, and then down Noswell Road in St Albans. And
Are you still in Luton?
Sorry?
Do you still live in Luton?
Good Lord, no. I then went to, as I say, to this body engineering. I was dye design and whatnot for Cowley, and then I've lived in Shenley Church End in Milton Keynes, and now I'm in a retirement home. Not retirement home, a retirement village.
So the RAF kept you in because of the Berlin airlift, you said?
I was just, you know, towards the end, R&I I was, Repair and Inspection Squadron.
Yeah.
But initially, waiting for a course, I was on a 44 Squadron at Hemswell and Scampton. And I saw those Lancasters with the old, you know, which dropped the bombs. And I flew in the RAF. Of course, occasionally, if you could, you scrounged the lift. I bombed in Heligoland, practiced, war was over. I bombed over Wayne's Fleet.
Have you ever flown in the Mosquito?
Sorry, no, I've never, no, that's it. No, I was Bomber Command with Lancasters.
And did you stay in the aircraft industry virtually the rest of your working life?
No, I went to Rovers on dye design. I went as a consultant first. I worked for a consultancy, and then I kind of met a friend and said, "Why don't you come on dye? It's dyes, you know, they're stamping out the panels of cars." So I was on dye design, and then I was on. If you Cowley, you see, if a casting cracks on the press, these big presses, you're in trouble. You lose a night's shift. Yeah. So often on queries, you had to go up and sort it out. And those people have been looking at it for a week, thinking, "What shall we do?" And you've got to make a decision whether you have a new casting, and you're talking about 50,000 quid, or whether you weld it and sort it, you know, and things like that. Very interesting, but so we got across and we got back, and then, as I say, amazingly, at 58, they said, we're closing here, as they started to close, and they went and they was having a interview in a hotel, de Havilland's, for electric people, and I went down and told them about my story, and the girl took it all down. The next thing is, I had an invite at 58. I thought was pretty good.
Yes.
I had 3 years then at there in the drawing office, which was a bit of a pardon.
Or working on all
on
just detail design.
Well, various things, even wind sales of the power, my memory. Wind turbines.
Yeah.
You know, the odds. I remember that. Also, the old various cooling systems and one thing and another. Yeah. And anyway, I was 3. I can't really remember what the old memory was.
Well, that's really good.
Air conditioning and God knows what. And then they wanted me to go to see. They said we're closing Hatfield.
Yes.
Well, they did. They closed our part of it, which is propellers. I call it propellers, but that part of the. But I enjoyed that part. It's very good. And initially, they closed that before they closed Hatfield, the other part.
The main factory.
But which closed pretty soon afterwards, anyway. Mental.
So you had to take exams.
You kind of used to have to make these, shape it all so it fitted the thing to pull it.
Yes.
For all those apprentice jobs, you know. I remember polishing the spar, the wing spar, I think, of the Comet for the radio test and all that, for the cracks and stuff.
Yes.
And also, I used to, when we were working on metal and one thing and another, often overnight you had to put it in the fridge. I'd never met it before, to do with tension and stress, you know.
Yeah.
As I say, in the experimental, really, once working on the benches, you're not fitting as you would be in the shops.
No.
It's parts and things too. But of course, you did have to go occasionally into the
do a lot of
first comic.
Material testing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and if you didn't, well, you didn't, but you probably made it so they could clamp it or whatever it is and stuff like that. And that's all. That's just. When I was here that year, I remember walking down the drive, and everybody said Peter de Havilland and had a crash above us that afternoon, and he was killed. And I did go to Geoffrey de Havilland's memorial service at the Abbey. I remember the old man. I didn't see him much because I wasn't there long enough. Of course, I was in the Hallis was the chief drawer on the Comet. Because I was on
Geoffrey
Vampire.
was quite a hands-on sort of person, was he?
Yes.
Quite approachable.
The job I didn't like when one of the jobs in the drawing office is interchangeability, I don't know if you know what I mean by that. If a plane crashed, say in Hong Kong, and the wings up spout, you want to be able to have a wing put on, but you know, with the old plus and minus of every inch or so, you could be about 2 foot out.
Yes.
As you can imagine.
Yes.